Let's take a moment and check out the dimmer and illumination settings on Pioneer's DEH-X6700BT. The quickest way to operate the dimmer is to press and hold the back button for a couple of seconds. And when I do that, you'll see the dimmer will switch on and the brightness of the head unit drops dramatically. So that's with the dimmer switched on. That's very dim. Maybe that's too dim for me. I'd like it to be a little bit brighter than it really is. So we're going to press in on the volume control and we'll go to the illumination settings. Here's illumination and press enter. And now I want to roll along until I find the brightness settings. And remember, my dimmer is still on. So we're going to press in on the volume control, and right now my brightness for the dimmer is switched on at level number 1. That's its lowest setting, and maybe it's too dim for me. So I'm going to turn that up to maybe brightness number 5. Alright, so now I'm up to brightness 5, and I'm going to press the band button to escape. And remember, my dimmer is still on. I'm going to press and hold this back button a second and switch the dimmer off. You can see the brightness comes up, and now let's test it out to make sure that dimmer is the brightness I want it to be. Press and hold for a moment. The dimmer switches on. It's dimmed, but not so dim that I can't see it. Alright, that looks pretty good. So we're going to switch that back off for right now. So now let's check out the illumination settings. We'll press in on the volume control, and we're going to roll along until we find illumination. Here's illumination, and press enter. The first thing we'll look at is the color settings. We'll press in here, and we can choose to adjust the key color, which is the orange area here, or we can choose to adjust the display color, which is the turquoise color here, or we can choose to adjust both colors at the same time. Let's start with both colors at the same time. I'm going to press in on the volume control, and we have a number of presets that we can choose from. You can see both the key area and the display area changing colors at the same time. If I choose this scan, it will continuously scan through all available colors. So we're going to go with the green color for right now, and I'm going to press back. But maybe I want to adjust things a little bit differently. I want the key color to be a little different from the display area. So let's go back to the display color, and I'm going to press enter. That's pure green right now, so I'm going to press and hold for a moment to bring up my RGB values. So here I have red, green, and blue values. Let's add some additional red in. Press enter. You can see that color starting to change already. We're going to back some of the green color out. And you can see the color continue to change. Press enter again to get to the blues. Now we'll add some blue into the system, and you can see that color change again. Once you've found a color that you like, if you wanted, you could write down those numbers, 31, 24, and 14, and you could transfer those over to the key color if you wanted. Do whatever you like. When you're done with that, you can press the go back button. We've created a custom color. We'll go back one more, and we'll roll over to our next setting, which is our dimmer settings. Now, in the dimmer settings, we showed you how to switch the dimmer on and off very quickly and change the brightness of the dimmer. So we'll press in there, and the dimmer can sync with the illumination. That means if your vehicle, when you turn on the lights in your vehicle, if your vehicle has the wire to do this, the radio can automatically dim with your lights turning on and off. Or we can synchronize the dimmer with a clock, and we'll take a look at that. To synchronize the dimmer with the clock, the start time, which means the dimmer switches on at 6 p.m., but we can change that if we want, maybe make it 7:30 p.m. There's 7:30, and then we also have the turn off time for the dimmer, the stop time. Right now it's 6 a.m., but maybe we'll make that 5:30. There, 5:30 a.m. is when the dimmer switches off on its timer. We'll go back, or we can have the dimmer working manually, which is pressing and holding the button. So choose one of those three functions for your dimmer function. And we'll go back again and roll over to the next setting, which is our brightness. And this is the overall brightness of the radio, and when the dimmer is switched on, the brightness of the dimmer. So we'll press in on the volume control. Right now the head unit is set to its brightest, which is number 10. If that's too bright for you, you can back that off to a lower number and roll that back up. All right, we'll go back out and roll over to the next setting. This is our phone color, and if we press enter, we see the flashing lights on the phone. This can be a different color if you want to. And we have Illumination Effects. Illumination effects means when we insert a CD, we see the flashing patterns that happen here. Also, the flashing patterns happen when we power up and power down the system. The illumination effects do not affect the power up and power down of the system. Let's roll over to the next setting, which is back around to our color. At any time, you can exit the illumination menu by pressing the band button to escape.